All right, welcome back. Today we're going to show you how you can optimize that either new computer, fresh Windows install, whatever it may be. So let's start by doing some of the things we do on a fresh install. Unless you plan on using them, I like to unpin the Windows Store and Mail icons from the bottom. You can always get them back by searching the Start menu for them and pinning them again if you like, just as like so. I like to uncheck the Task View and Cortana button because this is personal preference, but I don't like a cluttered taskbar. I like to either make my search icon small. Um, Personally, though, I will hide it because you can also search by just clicking the Start button and just typing in whatever it is that you're searching for, and that'll do um, virtually the same thing. So from there, I like to turn off the Action Center, and to do that, I'll click Start. I'll go to Start and type Turn System Icons on or off, and as you type this, it should autocomplete and show you the option right up here. Another way you can get here is by clicking Start, going to the Settings icon, which is the gear, and you can also type it in here. Now notice we haven't activated Windows here yet, so some of these options will be limited until we finish that activation. But since this is just the tester that we're going to scrap, we're not going to do that. So here, I'll turn off the Activation Center, and there's one less icon on my taskbar. Now you might also want to change which icons show up on the taskbar. I personally like to show all icons at all times. If you do have some icons that you sometimes need to get to, but you don't like them showing in the corner, you can leave that on off and select specific icons that you want on or off. You can also come down here to show hidden icons and drag it into the taskbar, and that will display them for you. You can also get rid of a lot of these tiles that Windows pins to the Start menu by the easiest way is to just right click on the group and unpin it. Unpin group, unpin group, unpin group. Oops. And now when you click Start again, you're back to a nice thin menu. Okay. Next thing I'll do is I know my system's going to need some drivers and things like that, so I like to run Windows Update. Two ways of getting there. You can click Start, go to Settings, go down to Update and Security, and check for updates. If you find yourself doing something like this a lot, like if you're a tech like we are, it's best to learn these commands because it'll make your life a lot easier later. You'll hit the Windows key and the letter R together, which will bring up the run prompt, and you'll type in Control space update, and that essentially will do the same thing in a couple seconds if you're a fast typist. So learning those commands, if you plan on doing this as a career, are very, very handy and will save you a lot of time. And oftentimes when, let's say, something's not working right, you can't click the Start menu, but you need to run a command, you could do it using the run prompt where maybe you couldn't have got into it otherwise. So very handy to learn the commands little by little. You don't have to learn them all at once. They just come with time and experience. Okay. Another thing I like to do is, and here's another command I'll teach you, it's Appwiz.cpl. Just think of it as Application Wizard, and essentially this takes you to the Add Remove Programs menu, and I like to get rid of Microsoft OneDrive. Unless you're using it, which some of our clients do, you can go ahead and keep it. We can always get that later if we need to reinstall it. Okay. Now, Windows 10 does have a lot of other apps that don't show up there. So if you are using Windows 10, you'll want to click on Start and go into the Settings gear and go to the Apps section. And here you can get rid of apps that you won't see in the traditional Add Remove Program dialog. For example, if I want to remove the Feedback Hub, I can click on it and uninstall. So this will remove a lot of those Start menu apps and otherwise. So I like to go through this and just get rid of anything that I can uninstall that I don't need. There are scripts out there that you can run in PowerShell that strip a lot of these for you with one command. Um, we can look at that at a later time, but generally I just go in and remove a few of the apps that I don't plan on using, and then I keep the ones that I might use. Okay, another thing I like to do is I like to go into the task manager, and to get there you can right click the taskbar and hit task manager, or you can press Control Shift Escape simultaneously on your keyboard. You'll want to hit show more details and go to the startup tab, and here you can disable a lot of startup items. Now it's best to do this after you've installed a lot of the programs that you want on the PC, because as you can see it's not very populated right now because we have a fresh Windows install. But if you just bought like an HP PC, you'll see a lot more. Or if you plan on installing um, Chrome and a browser and antivirus and such, then you'll start to see those also populate here, and you can disable the ones that you don't want to load on startup. You can also go to your task scheduler. So here's another command. It's short for computer management, so it's comp management, compmgmt.msc, and you're going to expand the task scheduler option here and go into your task scheduler library. And for example, I know I'm never going to use OneDrive, so I can delete that task. Do note that if you're using Windows 10, I believe OneDrive gets reinstalled with all major releases, which happen roughly every half a year or so. And if you don't plan on using Edge, you can delete those as well. And again, once you've installed various programs and over time, this list is going to be a lot longer, so it's good to check up on it once in a while and clean it up. Okay, once you have all your updates installed, you may have to reboot once or twice, and you'll want to see which drivers you may still be missing. A couple ways of doing that. You can right click on the start icon and go to Device Manager. Now for those of you who want the command, it's dev mgmt.msc, and that'll do the same thing. It'll just take you straight to Device Manager. And if you see any missing drivers, like in this case I see a little symbol here which tells me that driver is missing, and also your video card, although Windows 10 will install a driver, if you do want a more optimal driver, especially if you're using a gaming card from NVIDIA or AMD, you may want to go straight to their website and look at their driver section to get the latest and greatest drivers, which will have optimization for certain games and things like that. So for those of you who do want to stay totally up to date, I would do it that way. So for the missing drivers, you can either go to your motherboard manufacturer's website, and under the drivers section, you'll be able to download all the latest drivers. You just have to go to the support section of your motherboard manufacturer's website and type in the model of the motherboard you have. And there you can also get BIOS. Now BIOS is the very basic instruction set of how your hardware interacts with one another and so forth. So in some cases, I don't necessarily recommend updating your BIOS unless you're having certain issues. You may need to upgrade it. For example, at the shop, a lot of times we'll have a newer CPU but an older motherboard, and the computer won't boot because we just built it. They're not compatible right off the box, but because the motherboard manufacturer has released a BIOS to update that motherboard to work with that CPU, we can use another tester CPU, update the BIOS, and now we can put that newer processor in and get the computer working. So that's one example of a situation where you'll want to update the BIOS. Okay, so once you come back here, and you can either go through your motherboard manufacturer website, or you can double click the icon of the driver that's missing, go to details, and go to hardware IDs. I usually just copy this first line here and I'll do a Google search for it. You will want to be careful because a lot of these driver websites try to get you to install various third-party programs. Here, let's do a quick search for that, just see if we get anything. In this case, it's a VirtualBox related driver, which I'm using here, so we don't need to worry so much about it. I do like driver identifier, so usually I'll click there if I see that. Um, I also have a special drivers USB which loads a bunch of drivers, and I find that to work very well for loading a bunch of drivers at once, especially on older machines like Windows 7, which didn't auto install a lot of drivers right off Windows Update. So down here I find the driver, I hit download. Of course we're going to get an advertisement. We'll talk about ad blockers later. And you want to click this download button. You could see that they have a bunch of download buttons, and they're probably going to lead to some junkware. So you want to go to this one, and then you'll select, usually I'll just hit download for manufacturer server. Otherwise, actually that one might work as well. But in this case, I'll hit download from manufacturer server. And there we go. I got the driver. I can run the setup, or I can install it manually by extracting that driver file and then right-clicking it and hitting update driver. But I think that's a topic for another video. So that about sums up what we usually like to do on a brand new install. If you picked up your machine from the store, you're likely to see a lot more programs in the applications list or the add remove programs list, because a lot of manufacturers will pre-install antivirus and some of their own tools and things like that to try and get you to use them, or because they get payment from third parties to preload those tools. So thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video.